getting ahead of myself. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Hey there, it is Friday, June 20th. Yeah. Ooh, coming up on a big anniversary for me. I'll save that for later, or get to it next week. But I do have a lot of cool things I want to talk about today. One of them, the big thing, I'm going to get to this later. I'm going to talk about that song in a couple of regards. One is with respect to the chord progression, and that's because I had a student work on this week, and we started thinking, you know what, let's talk about the Joker for about 10 minutes. And it turned into like about 40 minutes that we spent on it because of all kinds of, we just dug deep into a couple little aspects of it. One was just the chord progression and what key it's in and what keys it could be played in. And the other is the technique for picking out what I just played there. Muting bass notes, possibly, not necessarily, but combining bass notes and strumming that then turn into a more complicated lick. So, I'm going to get to that by the end, hopefully, if I don't get too sidetracked. Let's see, we had a few new lessons. Nesh put together a couple really interesting lessons. When I Need You, which was by Albert Hammond, but it was at least over here, was a bigger hit for Leo Sayer. I'm sure if you watch the preview of that, you'll recognize the tune. And then a Roy Orbison tune from his, I think it was 1992, getting late in his career. From what was the album? Mystery Girl, it was called. You Got It was the song. Anyway, so that was our couple of new things. I'll save that for the Hawaii story. Okay. Was there something else new? I have finished editing the IGC videos from the spring, and I've realized that a lot of them will be really useful for people who weren't at camp to see. So I'm kind of going through it, some of the workshops and some things like that. I think we're starting making some of those public. The teachers did a really fun thing at the end. It took about 20 minutes, but we talked about a song, how the five of us would take a song and arrange it and then play it, having never played it together. And not everybody even knew it, I don't think. But that video, that turned out pretty cool. That ended up being kind of the finale of camp last year. And I guess, speaking of camp, we're like within 3 months, of the September camp. And we're going to keep this even a little smaller now. I decided I liked so much having, I think we had 18 people at the last one, and I'd advertised that we were going to limit this one to 30. We're now going to limit it to 25, and there are like 3 or 4 spots available. So if you want to be in on the 25, on the very select group of 25, act fast, get a hold of me, or you could even still register at the site, but that won't be available for long because we gotta have to do a little selective screening. Anyway, okay, off on that tangent. But IGC September 8th to the 12th this year. Next year, the fall one will be a week later because of Labor Day falling on the 7th, I think, and that's going to mean that we're going to start. Is that it? Yeah, we're going to start like on the 14th next year instead of wow. Anyway. And we're still planning on a spring camp as well, but these smaller camps have really become a hit, and I'm loving them. So let's see. I want to finish up the Hawaii story with what happened last year at the end of it, because if you remember, if you tuned in last week, I did the news from out in front of the condo we were staying at in Waikoloa, which is right near the Marriott Hotel in that area, if you know the area. And with my grandson helping out a little bit, cute little baby let's go into the good news first. The good news is, I think I forgot to mention last week that one of the big hits there was a game that we played a couple of times in the evening called Hitster. And this was like the whole group, and we got, basically 2 generations. There was me and Nani and the next generation, our 3 kids and their spouses, and my niece and her boyfriend and my sister. Oh, that's right. So we had 3 of my generation and about 6 or 8 of the next generation. And this game is very cool because it's sort of like Name That Tune. You use your camera, your phone, to get a code, and then it plays a song, and people have to guess what song it was, who it was, and the year it was. And this was fascinating because they thought I knew a lot about certain things, and I did about certain things, and I kind of fessed up and said, if it was before 1976, maybe 78, I'm getting shaky in 78, I can certainly get within a year and know the name, the artist, and everything else. But from '80s on, it starts getting really sketchy. And then my daughter and Krista and my daughter Elizabeth was the killer one, the youngest in the family. She just nailed about everything from 1980 on and there was stuff into the, probably not the 2020s, but at least into the 2010s. But it was just a great time was had by all. And if you're looking for a cool game to test your musical knowledge, check it out. My neighbor, the neighbor who was keeping an eye on our house, is the one that handed it to me when we were leaving for Hawaii. She said, "Hey, take this. I bet your family would like playing it." So, another really unexpected thing happened Friday after shooting the news. I had been in touch with a legendary Hawaiian guitar player named John Keawe. And John, I knew, lived in the neighborhood and performed a little bit, performed up in Kohala, which is north of Kona on the Big Island, and lived in Hawaii, which is the town at the very top, northernmost tip of the Big Island. And I had sent him an email saying, not sure if you remember me, but we taught a little bit together over 20 years ago at Keola Beamer's Aloha Music Camp. I might have mentioned some of this last week. I'm not sure, because I'm not sure how much I knew about it when I did the news. But I noticed he was playing at a hotel just up the road from us, the Maunalani. And that was going to be Saturday night at like 5 o'clock. And I thought, oh, well, if worse comes to worse, I'll go see him there and maybe we'll chat and maybe I could shoot a video. And Friday morning or Thursday night, no, it must have been Friday morning, he got back to me and said, "Hey, how about if I just come down and we shoot something there in your where you're staying before the gig? I could show up at like 3 and I got to be there at 4." And so that all happened. I had no idea that was going to happen, and I haven't gotten a chance to edit the video together yet. It's not really going to take much. It's just that when I get to the bad news, you'll know what happened here. So that was a real treat. John played some great tunes of his own. He's a great composer, singer, songwriter, and just incredibly cool, down to earth guy. So I will have more info on John Keawe in the near future. Okay, I think now the bad news about the trip. We all came home with COVID. Not all of us, but most of us. And so I've been down for the last 3 or 4 days. Mostly Monday and Tuesday were rough. Wednesday I felt a little bit better. Gave a few Zoom lessons, and here it is Friday, and I'm feeling like I'm 95%. Still a little cough every once in a while. But baby got COVID. Kepa had it. Baby's mama had it. I think my daughter Liz is coming down with it now. Nani had it. She's over it. She's finally testing negative. Who else? Connor had it, my daughter's boyfriend. He's over it now. Anyway, towards the end of the trip, luckily it was towards the end, we all got exposed somehow and brought it home with us. And unfortunately, it's really on its way back in here, at least in California. So this was my third bout with it, and it was relatively mild. 2 rough days. Okay. I think that's the end of the Hawaii trip story. What I wanted to get to today was what I talked about at the beginning, was the Steve Miller tune, The Joker. There's some really interesting things about it. First of all, it's a really simple chord progression. And hopefully you could even hear those chords. It's a great example of a song to have in your head so that you remember what it sounds like when you hear a progression like this. Okay, Brown Eyed Girl is a great example of 1-4-1-5. G in this case, C, G, D. The Joker is a great example of the same 3 chords in a slightly different sequence. 1, 4, 5, back to 4. Because Brown Eyed Girl leaves you hanging in the 4th measure by being on chord 5. The Joker comes home in measure 4. So it's like a completed thought and phrase from the beginning. Now, the riff you should be able to play this in all 5 of our common guitar keys and hear what might be different from one to the next. This is what I was going through with my student that we were working on this just yesterday, as a matter of fact. So this is a great way to have your 5 friendly keys really under control. So I had him go through the progression in G, and then let's just go through it alphabetically. The next guitar friendly key is A. So in A, that's going to be, let me register the chords. Got this? Okay, so you should have A, D, E, D. And what I'm doing is hitting the root of the chord on the first 2 beats most of the time, because that's kind of the way the riff in this song works. And so we got the A going up to D, to E. Now that's a different arrangement of the geometry, let's say, of the bass notes than it was in G. Okay, let's think about that. In G, I hear the low G in the bass, and then what direction does it go when I go to chord 4? Does it go up or down? Well, the G here goes up to C. Okay. And then it goes to chord 5. What direction does the bass go from chord 4 to chord 5? Well, that continues up in the case of G. So we have G, up to C, up to D, and then back to C. How's it work in A? A goes to D, up. But then to E, if I go to the lowest E I have on the guitar, the geometry is different. I went down to 5 and then back up to 4, skipped a whole octave going back to 4, right? So we hear this, in G we hear this bass pattern. In A we hear this bass pattern. Different. All right, our next friendly key is C. Got the chords? This time, what did the bass do? It went from chord 1 down to chord 4 because we went to the low F in the bass. And then 4 to 5, well, I was just going to say 4 to 5 is usually going to be the same, just up, up. But in the case of A, it wasn't. It dropped a whole octave. So that's what we hear in C is down to 4, up to 5. Okay, so that's 3 different patterns now that we have in terms of the arrangement of the bass notes. How does it work in D? Down to 4 and up to 5. Just like, which one? Which one is that the same as? It's not a different pattern. Let's say we have the G pattern that goes up to 4 and up to 5. We have the A pattern that goes up to 4 and down to 5. We had the C pattern that went down to 4 and then up to 5. That's what the D pattern did. Down to 4, up to 5. Now, this is just because of if we were in drop D tuning, everything would be different. Well, with some of the keys. But this is just because of the natural tuning or the standard tuning of the guitar. Okay, we have one more key. What is it? Got it? Which pattern is that the same as? We could call this the E pattern, but it's the same as got it? G. Up to 4, up to 5. And that's because it started on the 6th string, just like the G one did. So each of these patterns, or the way the bass notes are laid out on the guitar, offers different things you can do in each of these keys. So now when I first analyzed this song, when I first tried to figure out this song, this had to be 50 years ago, pretty close. Hearing the riff, I got to be careful how I say this, but it became clear that It had to be in G because we're hearing this. 4 is higher than 1 because we're starting on 1, walking up, passing notes up to 4, and continuing up, actually past and up with a little passing notes, up to 5, and then back to 4, walking its way back down. That lays out really well on the guitar in the key of G. In the key of C, only if I go up to the F. If I play it naturally in C, I'm going down to the F. Doesn't fit without switching octaves. Oh, I skipped A. How's A work? The E doesn't work because now the exact same riff can be played in all of those keys, but it doesn't take advantage of the lower notes that we have on the guitar. Okay, so the end of this story. Well, I hope this. Oh man, I gotta wrap this up quick. We'll see how it goes. But the song is not in G, and that's because he tuned his guitar down a whole step. So any music you find of this will tell you it's in F. Well, playing this riff in F. It's kind of clumsy. If he had studio musicians doing this, it'd be no problem. But he wanted it to be easy to play on the guitar, and he wanted to sing it in the key of F. So, if you want to play it in G, tune the guitar down to F. Another really famous song that you all should know does that. Anyway, same story. Guitar tuned down a whole step. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is the student that was working on this was having a little trouble playing this riff. Because of this. Getting that quick little eighth note run in there smoothly. And it was because the best way to play that is when you have this quick run to play in there, you can stop the motion of strumming. Not stop the motion, but you can put down a little anchor here so that you don't have the whole mass of your arm moving. Now, I'm going to do it with the mass of the arm moving first. And I'm probably going to miss some notes. Not as clean as if I did right as I go into this. If I grab a light anchor here with my knuckles. Now, exactly what I'm doing there is I'm putting down my third and fourth knuckles on the top of the guitar and letting the fingertips touch the first string. And now I'm perfectly oriented to be able to find, then I let go. And now I might even throw a palm mute in there. Could have it here. So now I'm pounding down here at the same time. Okay, all kinds of cool techniques that you could work on with this song. The other thing we found about this is there was a live version of Steve Miller playing this on Howard Stern on a very short scale 12-string guitar. I don't know what it's called exactly, but he was playing, it was only like this long, and he was really in F, which means the whole thing was tuned to D, the equivalent of the 10th fret of the guitar. So the whole body was probably only a little bit longer than this, but check that out if you're interested. Pretty fascinating video, and it's real easy to hear, see what he's doing with his hands. He's playing it in G. It's just that on that tiny 12 string, it's a whole octave higher, and he's thinking in G, but it's really in F. Okay, chew on that for a while, and I will be back next week.